And welcome into the Wednesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. Hope everybody's off to a marvelous start to their day today. Just one day before Thanksgiving. Happy early Thanksgiving to everyone involved. Joe Rexrode, how are we? What's going on?
Doing okay. Got a little broccoli salad stuff to buy today. That's going to be my contribution. It's by popular demand. Broccoli salad. Where are you guys doing your Thanksgivings?
Mine is somewhere close to Dixon. It's out there. It's actually in McEwen, Tennessee.
Okay.
It's not very many people know where that is, but it's close to Dixon, relatively. That's where I'm doing it.
And this is who? This is a grandparent?
Like my entire family. We're going to have like 55 people there.
Nice. Okay. How about you?
I will be up in the great state of Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah.
In-laws? Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you
I was
go.
up there. I was up there not that long ago for Thanksgiving, 2 years ago. So
yeah, but now
been
you're
around
like the
it.
married actual in-law Thanksgiving.
How about that?
One thing I'm going to miss about being down here, and this is something that I'll probably ask more about in about 30 minutes. One tradition that I have with my family at my cousin's house is we play something called can golf. So I will miss that this year.
What is that?
So we had a mutiny about 15 years ago from the kids' table and went outside and decided to smack the living hell out of soda cans with golf clubs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Like, are we talking empty cans or full?
Full.
Oh, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Can golf.
So we're talking like full cans of Coca-Cola. You just get out there with a 6-iron.
Yeah, my uncle didn't like it
away.
at first. We ended up, having that planned years down the road. About a decade in, it became, hey, let's get some seltzer water or something that's absolute garbage that we don't drink and actually use that instead.
How far can you hit one of these things?
I mean,
I'm intrigued by this now.
I've seen some cans go about 40 yards. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Feels like that could be, kind of a projectile out there.
It does.
Watch your head a little bit.
Then every year when someone has either gotten married or has a girlfriend, they all try it. It's awesome.
All right.
So,
okay.
Can golf, baby.
Can
but I'm
golf.
missing
Why
out
don't
this
you- well,
year.
I think you should bring can golf up to the in-laws.
I
think so.
Spread the love.
Yeah.
Maybe on farmland, maybe.
I got plenty of room out there.
Yeah.
Just bring it out.
Endear yourself.
Exactly.
There you go.
I like it. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette will be with us at 7:30. Preds are in action tonight, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers at Bridgestone Arena. So we'll talk with Brunette at 7:30. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. The choice is yours coming up at 6:30. The latest edition, Joe, of the college football playoff rankings are out, and it's good news for the Tennessee Volunteers, as I expected it probably would be, given the way the weekend went down. Here are the rankings last night. Oregon remains at 1, Ohio State at 2, Texas at 3, Penn State at 4, Notre Dame 5, Miami 6, Georgia 7, Tennessee 8, SMU 9, Indiana 10, and now this graphic is gone totally blank. Who's 11? Because I've just totally lost my spot.
So Indiana 10, SMU was
Boise State 11, Arizona State 12. There you go.
Well, yeah. So Arizona State, if you look at the bracket,
Yes.
The rankings, Arizona State is 16. So they're the highest ranked Big 12 team. And the 12 is Clemson, which is the only thing about last night's rankings that I'm like, whoa, what? Clemson jumps to 12.
By the way, Alabama's at 13.
Yeah, Alabama 13.
Which had a lot of people buzzing last night. It's like, oh, look at there. Alabama's still hanging around.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know what they can do. Like, okay, great, you can beat Auburn.
Yeah.
But you can move up if you get help, but they're,
Committee said last week they're really impressed by their win against Mercer. So imagine
That's
if they
true.
beat Auburn.
Well, that's the thing. So then they lose to Oklahoma. So a ridiculous jump for them, right? But now they drop 6 to get to 13. They were 7th.
Yeah.
And so they had the biggest drop of anybody in the thing. So, you got to keep that in mind too. But Clemson weirds me out a little bit. Because, I mean, look, I think Indiana's okay. But you could look at this and say, if Clemson beats South Carolina, are they setting them up to top Indiana and end up, looking at Big Ten and SEC only with 3 apiece. Can you
Yeah.
imagine the anger and outrage if they only get half the field?
I think if you're a Tennessee fan, based on where they were in the ranking last night, you feel pretty decent about if you just beat Vanderbilt, you're probably going to be in. Like you're feeling pretty good about it.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, it's very simple for you now. You are at 8. Yeah, again, Indiana plays Purdue. SMU can do some stuff. Boise's pretty much maxed out where they are. Alabama has Auburn. Ole Miss has Mississippi State. So really, you're not getting leapfrog if you are in if you win.
Right.
I would put that at 100%. I don't see a scenario where you win this game and you're not in the field, and that's a pretty big deal. For the Vols to have that clarity right now.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
After everything.
So the bracket projection last night, and again, this will change, but the bracket projection last night has Ohio State, Arizona State in the 5-12, Tennessee and Georgia in the 8-9. So just a nice trip back down to Athens for Tennessee. Indiana and Penn State in the 11-6, and SMU Notre Dame in the 10-7, with obviously Boise State, Oregon, Miami, and Texas getting the first round buys there. So I don't think it's going to end up that way. There will be some changing that takes place over the next couple of weeks, but I don't know that anybody – I'll put it to you this way. Tennessee fans and Georgia fans both were like, really? We're going to do Tennessee-Georgia again? That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's just how it is now. Another interesting thing about this is when it all comes down to the end, I still have a feeling that they're going to figure out a way, if it takes moving a team up or down one, to not have those a rematch like that. You know what I mean? Now, when it gets to 8 and 9, that's a very important ranking because that's a home game for one and it's a road game for the other.
Yes,
so
it is.
But I think that the way the bracket looks right now, it'll work itself out to where you'll have more attractive matchups, and you don't want to now. Indiana Penn State would not be a rematch, so fine,
right.
But Georgia Tennessee has a rematch in the same place. Not ideal, so that'll change. And Tennessee is still in play for a home game.
That's the thing.
Question.
That's the other takeaway from last night is not just if you beat Vanderbilt, you're in, but I mean, with how high you were in the rankings, it's not out of the realm of possibility you could host one. And probably what would be the 8-9 matchup would be my guess.
Right. So obviously, Georgia is still in danger. That's what the SEC championship game is now. It's just your danger of a third loss, and they're going to play either Texas or Texas and A&M. And Miami also, could drop too. Miami has potential. I don't even know who Miami plays this week, but Miami right now I think is in line to play, in the ACC title game where they could take a loss. So. Yeah, they're at Syracuse, which honestly, Syracuse is an 8-3 team. That's a sneaky kind of important game here on Saturday at 2:30. So, Tennessee has opportunity to move up, and a playoff game in Knoxville is absolutely on the table right now, which is pretty exciting too.
Well, and you mentioned it, Clemson kind of right on the outside looking in. They've got the matchup with South Carolina this weekend.
Your favorites.
The Goober Bowl. And look, there are still South Carolina fans. We heard from some yesterday on our text line, certainly last night after the rankings come out, that believe they've got a shot to get in this thing. Regardless of if they've got a legitimate shot or not, the Clemson-South Carolina game going to be massive this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. And, look, if you're South Carolina – shoot, you love seeing Clemson be at 12.
Yeah.
So now you have a chance to go on the road and beat a team that right now is even though they're not in the field, they're in the top 12 in the rankings. That is a big deal. South Carolina is playing really well, they lucked out to beat Missouri, but do what they did at Vanderbilt to blow out Texas A&M the way they did. It's just, to me, it's a hard sell still when you have the Ole Miss and Bama losses, and Ole Miss routed them in their place, and obviously they have the LSU loss too. It's hard for me to get to them. Head to head to me at some point, in some instances, has to count, and I think that might end up just being too much for them.
I would agree. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get in, but I will say, if they go on the road and just hammer Clemson, then I think they're going to make it interesting. Now, I don't know that I necessarily expect that to happen. I think it's going to be a good game. And maybe
Agree. No, if they
they
do
can
that,
win.
it's an eye opener.
Yeah, but if they go out there and just dominate, then maybe that's their path at that point. Other than that, I don't know that I could see one.
Right. Like, could they? So, again, Alabama and Ole Miss are going to win their rivalry games, or my goodness, do they have issues? Both of them. Like, there's no excuse. Both of them should win their rivalry games easily.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess if South Carolina really impresses, they could leapfrog them, but that's still not into the field, right? I mean, that's still not into the field unless other stuff above that happens. And I don't know. I mean, again, like Indiana plays Purdue. That's like playing a doll, like a mannequin at the store. I mean, like there just isn't with some of these teams. It's just not happening this week.
What do you make of? I saw Nicole Auerbach upset about this. I saw a couple people upset about this. Penn State being ranked ahead of Notre Dame. Now, Penn State's the 4, Notre Dame's the 5, so it's not like that much separation. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think Penn State and Texas have been consistently overrated. I think the committee has consistently overranked Texas and Penn State. Again, Penn State. I mean, I watched most of the game Saturday. They won. They got a fake punt.
I saw that
to help them win by a point at Minnesota. Minnesota's an okay team, just like a lot of these teams in the middle of these leagues. But I mean, they just haven't. Like, their most impressive thing is playing Ohio State close at home, and then Texas, of course. Again, their best win continues to be at Vanderbilt. So I think they're both overrated. It's not going to matter with Penn State. I think they play Maryland. There's another team. It's not even worth playing. Texas, obviously. Huge
Big
game
one
this week. And it's just, for Texas A&M, man, what an opportunity they blew by losing that game to Auburn. I mean, they'd be in really good shape here they're still in shape. They're still in shape to get the auto bid, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, so beat Texas, beat Georgia,
yeah.
auto bid, top 4 seed.
Yeah.
So at least they have that control, but the at-large thing, they really blew it.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The college football playoff rankings are out. Tennessee back in the projected field. We'll take your reaction to that. More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly BI membership where the buzz is always about great service. College football playoff rankings are out. Tennessee back in there at the number 8 seed in the rankings. The bracket matchup, they would be 9, so on the road at Georgia. As we said last segment, that will change as they move forward here. But the opportunity in front of Tennessee and a matchup that we discussed a lot yesterday, Joe, Tennessee and Vanderbilt coming up in our city on Saturday. Vanderbilt with a heck of an opportunity here to eliminate Tennessee from the college football playoff, and Tennessee with an opportunity, if they can beat their in-state rival to end the season, they punch their ticket in the inaugural edition of the beloved 12-team playoff that we've always loved here on this program.
Big fan, consistent supporter here. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited for the playoff. I'm excited for this game and the stakes. And, I was reminded, I think it was Zach Reagan tweeted out this entire, and I remember, but I kind of forgot all of it, this entire sequence last year. If you remember, it was Tyler Barron hit A.J. Swan. It was like a false start on Vandy, and Tyler Barron came in and just took a free shot at A.J. Swan, and Clark Lee lost it. And then there was like a sack, and there was more late hitting, and all of a sudden both teams. And I was like, I'm reminded of, Jawan Jennings a few years ago. A gentle little tap on the chest, or attempted murder, depending on which side was watching the stomp.
I tried to get Jimmy Wyatt to come on with us this week, and there was just some scheduling conflicts that didn't allow it to happen. But we're going to have him on to talk a little bit of Titans. But I was also going to bring up this matchup and potentially, little Jawan Jennings.
Yeah, I'm sure
it would have gone well.
Jimmy Wyatt has never been anything but kind to every person I've ever seen, except when he called me a homer in a very angry way in the press box at Lucas Oil Stadium. And what would that have been? Was that like 2019?
Yeah, probably.
Was that Jawan Jennings last year, 2019?
I can't remember when his last year was, but that sounds right.
That's right. It was like Pruitt's second year.
Yeah. That sounds right.
So yeah, Rexrode. That's true. That play is a great example. And by the way, I was 5 feet from it. It was right in front of me. I was like, yeah, that's not cool, man. And then all of a sudden it was like, he tried to murder him per Vanderbilt fans. So that's a great example of the eye of the beholder when in an in-state rivalry.
Yeah. Clark Lee said this of the Tennessee rivalry, quote, "The unique thing about this game is that it's extremely personal to me. I grew up in this city. I grew up following this program, and I played in this program. The meaning of this game cuts deep to us. Maybe that's a little old school, but that stuff still matters to me." That's what Clark Lee had to say on the rivalry coming up with Tennessee. Look, I think this is pretty predictable from this standpoint. Whatever Vanderbilt's best shot is at this point with the health of Pavia and all these things, and we'll see what it looks like on Saturday, you're going to get it if you're Tennessee. And then, like Tennessee, I mean, the path is right there in front of you. Like, I would assume whatever your best is, you're going to see it from them too. So from that standpoint, I'm really fascinated by this. Like Vanderbilt and their ability to just be pesky like they've been all year long, and they've given people fits with what they do offensively. We talked about it yesterday. It's been a little less so offensively the last few weeks here, but can you get back to that to some level if you're Vanderbilt? I'm sure they're going to have something up their sleeve for Tennessee in this game that they've not shown yet. So I'm interested to see what that is. But just the psychological part of this for both of them, like Vanderbilt with, number one, your biggest rival, and number two, an opportunity to just totally ruin it for them. That part of it. And then if you're Tennessee, like, can you handle the stakes of your college football playoff path being right there in front of you? I'm really, the psychological part of this heading into it is pretty fascinating to me.
No question. No, and look, it does remind me a bit. It's not exactly the same, but it reminds me a bit of, I think it would have been 8 years ago. Butch Jones kind of already the difference is, they had blown it at South Carolina, but like the Sugar Bowl, it's a different time. But like the Sugar Bowl was basically assured if they won that game, and that was like Vols fans are excited about the Sugar Bowl. I mean, that's a big deal to make the Sugar Bowl. And then Vanderbilt, that was a big moment for Derek Mason, really, to win that game over Butch Jones, and it was really kind of the beginning of the end for Butch Jones. I mean, maybe you could go earlier, or you could say, yeah, not until the next year when it really got bad. But it was a big.
Oh, and the Robby Stanley coach firing clock, South Carolina was it.
South Carolina was it.
That
Yeah.
was it.
Well, and that's fair too, because that's a game they never should have lost. And then of course that cost them the East, or it cost them a chance at the East, which I guess they would have blown at Vanderbilt maybe still. But it reminds me of that a little bit in terms of both of these coaches, and I think Clark Lee has done a lot already this year to totally change the story over there. Anyway, so I don't know. Is it house money? I mean. Yes, in terms of making a bowl game, it's a big deal at Vanderbilt, and they already have. But it's just still. I mean, they'll probably get a better bowl game if they win this game, right? I don't know what that all. I haven't really dug it on their Birmingham Bowl versus whatever bowl. But this would be the biggest win in Clark Lee's career and the biggest win for Vanderbilt football in a long time, because at least that long. Because the Tennessee teams they beat the next 2 years. Well, we're not great.
Well, the biggest win for Vanderbilt against Tennessee in a long time. I mean, they did beat Alabama at home this year.
But it's true. It's funny though. Yeah, and you can't change that moment, and it's an amazing moment. And they take the goalpost of the river. But like now I'm sitting here and that Alabama team is not even going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean,
so like you could kind of make the case that this would be bigger, right?
You could. Well, certainly, like, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, like the opportunity to have both of those moments in the same year.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to be salivating if you're right. Like, because I mean, nobody will ever be able to take away the Alabama game from them. Like we're going to be talking about that Alabama game with Vanderbilt for 20 years. Like it's going to be something we always refer back to. But like, if you could cap it off by keeping Tennessee out of the playoff in the same year at home and to get that big win against your rival, I mean, that's a pretty sweet way to end things. Regardless of, like, I'm with you. Like, I don't know if it changes your bowl destiny that much. To me, that's worth way more than the bowl if you're a Vanderbilt fan.
For sure. Oh, no question. Yeah. I was trying to think it's like stakes outside of this.
Right.
But yeah, who cares, right? I mean, they're going to go to a bowl game. They got that. To win this game, to have that experience again in the same season. Yeah, well, it's like Tennessee, too. We're going to talk about the Tennessee win over Alabama from 2 years ago for a long time, too. I mean, it's kind of like everybody's getting their shots in at Bama now. You know?
Apparently so.
But, no, to be able to possibly do this, I mean, and so it would be up there for Vanderbilt wins, and what would it be for Tennessee losses? I mean, because it's right there.
It's right
for
there.
You. It is right there.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. This is a big moment for Josh Heupel and his program to me. Like you get in the playoff this year when things haven't been close to perfect on offense. It hasn't been what you hoped with Nico, but you still you've built the defense up. You persevered. You had a bad loss, but you stuck it out and you go win this game. This is a good win if they get it.
Well,
that's the thing too. It's like it's not just like you want to avoid this terrible loss. It's a good win if you can get this.
And it's on the road, which is
right.
He is not the one thing that they have not done. Well, yeah. The one thing they have not really done a ton of under Josh Heupel is winning big games on the road. And I realize that this is not, they're not going to be walking into an environment on Saturday that's like Georgia a couple of weeks ago, or like going to Alabama on the road. But like, what's Tennessee's best win on the road in the Josh Heupel era? Is it LSU? Like going down there and just smoking LSU? Is that the best win they've got on the road? That was a good win against a okay LSU team that, ended up making the SEC title game that year.
Yeah.
But that's probably it, right? Like you've had an opportunity at Georgia a couple times, didn't do it. You had the great first half at Alabama last year and you didn't finish it. And again, this is not exactly the same thing, but the stakes are as big as ever. Like a high stakes road game, they've not really had a big signature moment in one of those years.
Right. I mean, they obviously the South Carolina lost, the Florida lost last year. It hasn't been as good
Missouri,
as
they got smoked last year, and that was a big game.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And it is. I mean, I think it'll be kind of more like playing in a bowl game, with a 50-50 crowd, but still, it counts as a road game. And it's still it's still like the pressure at hand and the energy from Vanderbilt fans that I expect that we'll see Saturday. It's still going to be a challenging situation.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The choice is yours. Coming up next, we'll have Pred's Pick to Click coming your way at 6:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
We all have choices to make. Like right now. It's The Choice Is Yours, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for The Choice Is Yours here on Robby and Rexrode. Every Wednesday morning at 6:30, 2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions. We'll take your participation, as always, on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Nick Keyser, you were in the questions chair this week. I turn things over to you.
All right, fellas, sports or non-sports?
Let's go sports.
All right. So this was a question brought up to me, and I thought it was an interesting thought to kind of have here, but just to kind of go back down memory lane some. If you had to pick a sports decade that you'd like to have I'll phrase it this way. If you had to take a time machine back to any sports decade to go watch any run, what would it be?
Well, I have a feeling I know where Rexrode's going with this one.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly go back and relive my bad boys and that whole era of the NBA. Watching poor little Michael Jordan struggle to get past the Detroit Pistons. It was tough, man. But he did end up 1-3 against them in the playoffs.
He finally overcame.
I may have mentioned that stat a time or two.
You might have.
He did finally beat them, and he ended up 1-3 against them in the playoffs in 4 playoff series. But yeah, the hatred of the Celtics, the greatness of Pistons Lakers finals. I was a big Lakers fan too. They were like my West team. I would go through the whole thing. Lambeer, Mahorn, Isaiah Dumars, Rodman, Sally, Buddha, James Edwards. Loved them.
I mean, mine would be the 2010s for no other reason than the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010. My beloved Miami Heat won the championship in the NBA in 2012 and 2013. So it would probably be that. If I had to single out one, it would be the 2010s for no other reason than to go back and watch the 4 years of the Miami Heat.
Okay.
With LeBron, Bosh, and Wade together.
So which of us answered the question incorrectly? Because
what do you mean?
Were you saying just a decade of any sports,
well,
or
you
a particular
both
sport?
picked a different decade that you would go back and visit. That's really the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
So
fine.
I guess I'm the
Neither
80s.
one of us are wrong.
I guess I'm the 80s sort of.
There's not-
The
there's
Pistons'
not-
second title was
Yeah.
1990. But
You can hang around for an
we'll
extra
hang around
Sure.
for a few
months.
months. Okay. All right.
89-90 season, that still counts.
Then I get some Barry
I
Sanders
guess.
early too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. I didn't get to live this because I was born in 98, but I'd like to go back to the early 90s, back when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. Also, we saw
Brian Leach, baby.
Yeah.
Right. We also saw the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup in 93.
Maybe
Golly.
Guy
at
Carbonneau,
this
baby.
point.
That is, I've never thought about it in those terms. Like,
Mhm.
there's never been a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup in your life.
Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty incredible.
wild to think about.
So 90s hockey is what you're saying.
yeah. Well,
that'd
the
be
clutch and
very
grab
high
era.
on my list too. Be very high on my list too.
well, that, and I think I also put down here the 90s Bulls because they had the huge
It's true.
three-peat.
90s are
yeah,
good.
they sucked.
Shut up. It's fine. you like your Pistons. You can stick to it. All right. Our first non-sports question of the morning. If you had to create a Thanksgiving tradition, and I talked about this earlier for
Candles.
myself. Yes. If you had to create a Thanksgiving tradition that you would hope lived for generations to come, what would it be?
Is yours can golf?
Heck yeah, man.
You already did it.
I know, but we have to keep it going every single year. It has to keep going.
You like I'm trying to invent a game
Yeah, I
as we
don't
speak.
know.
right
See,
here on
that's the
program.
thing. And-
I would rather like revisit. There's some revisiting. Like what I would like to do when I was not really a kid. Yeah, a kid, but also like into college and stuff. Go to my aunts, uncles in Kalamazoo, Michigan, every Thanksgiving, and big euchre tournament. If you guys haven't played euchre,
What is that?
euchre is a fantastic card game. You guys ever played spades?
Yeah.
I played
Okay.
euchre.
Long time ago. But
Okay,
yeah.
you played euchre. Yeah, euchre is basically it's an offshoot of spades in which every suit can be trump, whereas spades is always trump and spades.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great game. Euchre tournaments, and we kind of have got we taught our kids to play, but I would like to get that going more. Maybe we'll do that this year, actually.
I mean, my tradition that I would like to start, truthfully, is instead of one pan of banana pudding, we now go to 2. We have 2 pans of
Two
banana
of the
pudding. So it's just
same.
doubling it
Does
up.
that mean one of them will be good now?
We'll play the Beatles while we eat it.
Corned beef hash is the other one now too for Joe. Oh my gosh.
Maybe some plums.
Yes.
So for those that
A lot of
missed
good
it,
food takes on here.
so for those that missed it, I already talked about can
Black
golf.
licorice.
Yeah. Oh, oh.
Now we're in there.
Oh man.
Yeah, can
You
golf would be
die.
mine. Can golf is something that I did for the last 15 years. It's been fun. The can go about 15 yards with a
No
golf
one knows
club.
what can golf is other
Doesn't
than
matter.
you,
Doesn't
which
matter.
makes it even better.
I know. So anyway,
That sounds fun.
it honestly is a lot of fun, except when all the soda sprays up against you, but that's okay. So, all right, our last sports question. Traditionally, I know that this year can be a little bit different. I know that for me, when I'm watching Thanksgiving football, there's one team that always comes to mind. Is there a team that comes to mind for you when you associate an NFL game on Thanksgiving and football? And for me, I can go first, because I always eat around lunch every single year. It's always been the Lions, no matter how bad they've been. Before I even met Joe and I heard about his affinity for the Lions, I always was waiting to watch the Lions on Thanksgiving. They were horrendous for years, obviously, but I always enjoyed watching Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, Lions, their whole thing has been built around the Lions. I have some family members who always go every year. But yeah, I mean, it's a tradition, and it's not unfair because, by the way, the Lions have lost 7 straight.
I was going to say their record on Thanksgiving is awful.
The record's not good. It's still probably better than their overall record. I mean, I remember things such as the Titans. I think it was the 08, 0-16 Lions. The Titans beat them by about a
47 to 10.
Yeah, stuff like that. I also remember a Lions win over the Steelers in 1983, like 45-3, and Billy Sims went off. So there's been some good moments too for the Lions.
Don't the Lions own the best record on Thanksgiving? Probably, you would think.
No, they don't have a good record. No. I'm sure Dallas's record is better than the Lions. My tradition would always be disappointed by the Lions and then just root against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and then love to see, like, when Leon Lett totally botched the field goal against Miami. If you haven't seen that, go check that one out. Stuff like that. That's pretty much my tradition.
Well, mine is the Cowboys, but it's not really for anything they do on the field. It's the greatest halftime show of all time, which took place in 2001 with Creed and people suspended from the rafters and swinging around out there.
Rexrode.
So you're talking, I mean,
yeah,
it's 23 years ago. It's pretty wild.
And
23 years ago.
And somehow they still think they're allowed to go out in public and play music.
And they still sell it out, baby. That's what I think of. The Creed Thanksgiving halftime show.
Okay.
If you've never seen it, Google it.
Yeah, legendary stuff right there. And if you don't know, that is the foundation of our program. So there you go. All right, our final question on The Choice is Yours, this Thanksgiving non-sports question. All right. Look, you can pick a different turkey if you want to, but grilled or smoked turkey, go.
Different, fried, deep fried.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Let me tell you what's happening tomorrow. We got 2 deep fried turkeys, 1 smoked turkey. We're going to have a lot of bird tomorrow, but
at least 2.
Deep fried turkey is the way to go. Now there's some methodology to it. You got to be careful with what you're doing. You can't just go willy-nilly and chuck it in there, and that's how somebody will catch something on fire tomorrow at some point in our state. So let's be careful out there. But once you go deep fried turkey, it's pretty hard to really do anything else. Deep fried turkey.
My cousin in Florida a few years ago had one of those things. I guess it's just a deep fryer, but it's like, and I'm with you, man. That's better than, for me, I think another question you could have is white meat, dark meat. Yeah. I'm 100%. I love dark meat. I will not touch white meat turkey. I think it's dry, but if it's fried, it's all good.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right.
The real answer here is put the turkey out there. It doesn't really matter how you do it.
Sure, exactly. Well, my uncle has made 2, so shout out to Uncle Scott. He's made 2 for years and years. My answer is his grilled turkey, typically. Okay. The smoked is a great turkey as well, but my preference is always a grilled turkey. I've not had a deep fried one in years, and I had to go between my parents' houses, so one had a deep fried, one had a grilled or smoked. But yeah, grilled, always my preference. So
deep fried is electric. It's awesome.
Who makes it at your house?
How about Dad?
Nice.
Dad's an expert turkey fryer. We will fry some turkeys like throughout the year, not even just on Thanksgiving.
Okay. Joe, do you make the turkey?
No, we go to Katie's cousins in Brentwood, and they do that. But like I said, I think we got ham this year, which I think is an important part of Thanksgiving. I eat the ham, and then I'm doing the famous broccoli salad. Yeah. So I'll bring that in for you guys sometime.
You should.
Yeah.
I'll bring in some banana pudding that I've been talking about for 5 years.
I'm still waiting.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. It's time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds in action tonight, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Got a brain fart on who they were playing for a second. Almost said Florida Panthers. They are taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Preds tonight, you want a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds in action tonight, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Puck drop 7 o'clock, pregame 6 o'clock. Here on 102.5, 106.3 the game. Standings update in the competition. I'm on the board last time out.
Nice.
Which has brought the overall score to Joe Rexrode, 5 correct answers. Robbie Stanley, myself, 2 correct answers. The listeners, Nick Keyser, stuck at 1 correct answer apiece. With that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 the game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in David to the program. David, thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
Well, I guess David hung up. Sorry, guys.
There you go.
But I did get his answer.
Who was it?
David would like to go with Ryan O'Reilly.
Ryan O'Reilly. There you go.
Yeah, bad line, I guess.
Been a while since Ryan O'Reilly scored a goal. I guess one would say he's due.
Good luck, David, says the muted Mike.
I am up next in the competition. I'm going Philip Forsberg. Joe Rexrode, O'Reilly, Forsberg off the board. Your pick to click.
Okay, I'll go Stamkos.
O'Reilly, Forsberg, Stamkos off the board. Nick Keyser, your pick.
Roman Yossi.
Wow. Okay. I think that may have been
The same
the
four.
same
Yeah,
four
same
from
four.
the other day.
Different,
Just different order.
people.
Yep.
Yeah.
O'Reilly, Forsberg, Stamkos, Yossi, the selections tonight in Preds Pick to Click. Joe, we're going to have Andrew Brunette coming up at 7:30 on the program today. Obviously, this team in some dire straits right now. It's rough. They're 7-12-3, and they just can't, for the life of them, seem to figure out how to sustain any sort of good play. I mean, they looked pretty darn good on like Saturday against Winnipeg. I think if you're a Predators fan, and certainly like if you're like somebody like me that's been around the team and you're paying pretty close attention to what's going on out there, you walked away from the arena and you're like, okay. I mean, that kind of looks more like what you thought it might be this year. You know, the goaltending was really good. They didn't give up a ton of chances. They played pretty well 5-on-5, scored a big power play goal in the game. It's like, all right, that's a little bit more like what we thought we might see. And then you can make the argument, and they've had some doozies this year. I mean, you can make the argument the game against New Jersey on Monday was as bad as any they've had this year. And I know, 5-2 is not necessarily just getting totally destroyed in a game, but I mean, 5-on-5, second, third periods, they just got smoked. I mean, they couldn't do anything. So it's been the story of the year. Stamkos talked about that Saturday of you have a pretty good performance, and there's just a total inability right now for them to put it together. And I heard Jared talking about this yesterday too, and I mean, I would agree with it. It doesn't feel like anybody has the answer. I mean, if they did, I would assume they would have figured it out by now. So they're just kind of searching right now for what it's going to take to find some level of consistency with stringing together some good performances back to back to back.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Just it's a lot of, I mean, it just seems like a lot of, wow, well, maybe this will be it. And then, no, actually not. And now you it's like rinse and repeat with, an overall lack of consistency and an overall trajectory that's just, that's going to result in, well, the most disappointing season in Preds history. I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean,
that's what it's trending to be for sure.
What it is right now. So, I don't have any great answers either, other than people playing better together, playing better individually. Right now as we talk, there's something at The Athletic about whether, all the teams are buyers or sellers. I mean, obviously it's not that time yet, but just, every once in a while you check in right around Thanksgiving. Okay, is this team looking like they're going to be a buyer or a seller? And, you and I talked about this off the air. I think I'm changing to, I think aggressive buyer, which I know some people are like, what are you talking about? But like, I don't know how you can do what you've done if you're Barry Trotz. And I understand the rebuild plan comment and all that stuff, but I don't know how you can do what you've done and then not be like, look, somehow this group has to be helped. This team, you can't make these moves and then punt,
give up on
right?
it. Yeah, like we all realized when they signed Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea, it's a little bit different deal because his is more longer term, like he's 7 years. But like Stamkos and Marchessault specifically, you're probably signing up for some pain the last couple of years of those contracts, right? Didn't think the pain would be immediately, and so far it has been. Now, is that going to be the case the whole time? I don't know. Like, I'll put it to you this way, and this is when we get back into the coaching conversation, which it's always going to come back to when it's this bad for this extended period of time to begin a season. It's very hard for me to believe that at the same time, Stamkos, Marchessault, O'Reilly, Yossi, Shea have all just like fallen off the cliff at the same exact time. Like, it's hard for me to get there. Now, is there some level like Marchessault, I think, is a perfect example. Marchessault scored 40 last year. Marchessault's never really approached 40 before. So, like, the idea that he was going to come in here and score 40 again, I never really bought.
Yeah,
but he didn't have to. Like,
No.
you get to the high 20s, low 30s. It's perfect. It would have been fine. Stamkos, was he going to score 40 again? I know he's not playing with Kucherov and Point anymore, so maybe not. But if he gets to the mid-30s, like, you'll sign up for that. Forsberg is the one where it's like, yeah, he can score 40 again. Go do it. But, like, if they were on pace for all that right now, like Marchessault for 25, Stamkos for 32, Forsberg for 40, they'd be fine. They'd be in great shape. And instead, they're nowhere near that pace right now.
Right. So you can isolate them, and that's obviously it's a huge deal. But there's other stuff too, right?
O'Reilly,
obviously
Novak.
O'Reilly has not been producing. Nyquist is not what he was last year. Novak has been a disappointment. Shea has been a disappointment.
Basically, everybody except UC Saros it's not going so hot for him right now. That would be probably how I sum most things up. Is pretty much everybody outside of maybe like Zach LaRue, who's coming up as a rookie, but like pretty much everybody, except Saros, who by the numbers is playing pretty well, is not going overly well for him at the moment out there, which is not. It's hard to string together back-to-back good performances that way when you don't have anybody really going.
It's hard to figure. I know this is great analysis on my part, but it's like,
well, I think
I don't get it.
I think we could have like this exact same conversation with Andrew Brunette, and I think it would be pretty similar. Like, I don't know that anybody has a real good answer for what's going on out there right now.
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll have all the answers in a half hour.
We'll see. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will get back into the Titans coming up next. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us in the 8 o'clock hour talking all things Titans as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette joining the program at 7:30. Preds taking on the Flyers tonight. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us from 8 to 9 o'clock, talking all things Tennessee Titans. So looking forward to that. Coming up a little bit later in the program. John, look at the NFL rushing leaders. Tony Pollard in 7th right now in the NFL. He's on pace for just over 1,200 yards. Right now he's got 800 yards on the dot rushing through 11 games. 800 yards, 4 touchdowns for Tony Pollard on the ground. Coming off a really good game against the Texans on Sunday. The 3 leading rushers in the NFL right now. Saquon Barkley has 1,392 yards through 11 games, which is absurd. Right now, he's on pace for like 2,100 yards rushing. Derrick Henry with Baltimore, 1,325 yards, so he's number 2 through 12 games. Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, 944 yards through 11 games. So, I mean, look, the first 2 with Barkley and Henry on an incredible pace. There's a big drop-off after that. Jacobs is at 3. If you're wondering, Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit's at 4. Hubbard in Carolina's at 5, and Kyron Williams in 6 in L.A., with Pollard being number 7. But you're talking about Saquon, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard in your top 7. And by the way, you throw Aaron Jones in there at number 8 and Joe Mixon at 9. So that's 6 of the top 9 that were either free agents, moved to another team, or in Mixon's case, got traded to Houston, that are now on their new teams and are balling out so far this year. Now, again, Saquon and Derrick on a little bit of a different level than the rest of them, but Saquon, I mean, it was there for all of us to watch with the hard knock stuff with the Giants in the offseason. I mean, and by the way, after he put up 255 yards or whatever it was the other day, that clip started making the rounds again of the Giants ownership just saying, well, I'd really hate to see him on Philadelphia. I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if you see that. It's amazing that they moved on for different reasons, like Derrick Henry. I think we all kind of knew that train was coming to an end here with the Titans. Josh Jacobs was a free agent, gets signed by Green Bay. So these guys that have been good players in the league at that position, we've talked about that position being devalued. They've gone elsewhere. They've gotten, in some cases, pretty good money, and they've immediately been productive in their new spots. What do you make of that? What do you make of kind of the current state of the running back position and how these guys going to their second stop are continuing to be really productive at the top of the league?
Well, I think a couple things. One, I believe if you go back to last year, I know for sure with Derrick Henry, I said many times, like, if Derrick Henry on the Ravens would be incredible, and it has been. But the second choice that I had, I believe I said this many times too, would be the Eagles. And the reason is with both of those schemes and with both of the quarterbacks, if you have a dynamic running back, and these are very different running backs, but they're both great players. These are both. Derrick Henry is going to be in the Hall of Fame. I think we feel pretty confident about that, right? And I think Saquon Barkley is that level of talent too. Now, he has been hurt a lot, and so that's part of the story here with him too. But you're talking about two special, like they are gonna, and they both could be in Canton. Derrick Henry will be. So that's part of it is like they're great. Part of it is the scheme of where they went, incredible fits. And then it's different in terms of, the Titans, of course, it was a regime change, which, he didn't know even last year when when he said goodbye to the fans, he didn't know Vrabel was going to be fired. A lot of people thought he wouldn't be, including me, because, Titans went out of their way to make sure everybody knew after Thanksgiving that he wouldn't be.
Exactly.
But it happened. So that made it even more likely to me that he was going to move on. I think it was likely anyway. So, it was kind of like it's your time. I think with the Giants, it is some bad luck for them because it's the same people. I mean, they should have, whatever, known what they had. I know that they gave him an offer and all that stuff. But for them, he had been hurt, and it's like, what is he going to be? And now the Eagles are taking advantage of this. Just incredible. I mean, he's to me, I think both of them are legitimately, at least in the discussion for MVP. But I mean, right now, Barkley, I mean, I know it's after recency bias, but after that performance the other night, there's a lot more talk about that. So it's great for running backs. It's still too bad that running backs, are not getting paid relative to other positions. But here's a great example of you can be a little older, and it's worth giving a second contract to some guys. Now, Derrick Henry's on his third,
Right.
but like that position still matters a ton in football. And if you get a great one with some longevity, then it's worth paying them.
Well, it's interesting too, because people were having this conversation about Saquon, and his is a little different because he's had some pretty big injuries in his career. But like Saquon's 27, Josh Jacobs is 26, I believe.
That's wild to me.
And
he
like,
just seems older. To
I know,
me,
like but like the idea behind the discussion was, yeah, those guys are young, but with the draft being what it is, like you can go replenish the running back position, and you can go get, a 21, 22-year-old. And by the time you're ready to pay them, well, you can just go do the same thing again and go find another running back in the draft, and you start to get into this cycle. And that's part of why running back has been devalued, is because there are cases. I mean, look, I bring up Barkley, Henry, and Jacobs. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs is fourth, right? Like the Lions just drafted him. And by the way, they've got David Montgomery in the fold too. So it's a pretty good combo they've got there. But I do wonder, like, if you're looking around the league right now, it was for a while, it was Derrick Henry that was getting all these carries, and he was kind of the bell cow running back, and everybody else did it in different ways. Like McCaffrey was a good back, but he also was a big part of the passing game. Kamara was a good back, but he's also a big part of the passing game. And these guys can be a part of the passing game. Like Saquon catches some passes, but I mean, primarily he's just getting right after. I mean, he's averaging 6.2 yards a carry on the ground. Like Josh Jacobs in Green Bay is not a huge part of the passing game. They're just your traditional line it up, turn around, hand it off backs. And I wonder if we're going to see more of that moving forward. We talked about the NFL going in cycles. It's a pretty darn good year for the running back in the NFL right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, look, there's a guy, he's not the only one. There's some good backs. And like Caleb Johnson from Iowa is a really good player. But, I mean, Ashton Genty is going to be, I think, a pretty high pick. And I think he's going to be a star. You look at all of his stuff. I mean, all the metrics, I understand the level of competition, not the same, but like Oregon is a loaded up NFL defense, and he torched them too. So there's one. There's guys coming in, and yeah, it's an interesting question of, do more teams look at it like, man, one primary dominant back? I mean, everybody's going to have some division of labor there. I mean, the Ravens, I think they have a really good thing going with Justice Hill as the other guy. You know, that's a good, and I think that they're not too predictable with what they do with those guys. But man, there is value if you can get that guy, and the guy who wears down the defense and gets in a rhythm. Because running backs will tell you, well, if I get 12 to 14 carries, I'm not going to be at my best. I need 20.
Well, I think, particularly around here with Derrick Henry doing what he did for so long, like Tony Pollard, 7th in the league, on pace for like 1,236 yards. That's a pretty good year, right? And you'll get to the end of it, and Derrick Henry is going to end up with 18 or 1,900 or whatever it is. And it's like, well, you could have had that, but Pollard here's got 12 or 1,300, which by any metric is a pretty good year for a running back. It's just not your Superman like Barkley and Henry are putting up this year.
Yeah, and again, as we've talked about, with Pollard and Spears, which was the plan, you do have the versatility in terms of running routes. And that's just, Derrick Henry is not running routes. He'll catch a swing pass, he'll get a screen here and there, but those guys can be more fully into the passing game. However much you value that, that's why some people, again, Ravens are behind. Derrick Henry is going to stay on the sideline in the fourth quarter. When they're in 2 minutes, he's going to stay on the sidelines. He'll watch the game. Most important part of the game, and this is what it was here too, if you're not ahead and he's not your hammer when you're trying to play 4-minute offense, then he's going to stand and watch. With Pollard, those numbers you mentioned, Robbie, if Spears didn't get hurt, I think he would have had less opportunity, and
I
it would have been more of a two-back. And I think they're better off with Pollard being just the main back. He's better.
By the way, on this rushing list, I'm going down a little bit just to see how Washington, like individually, is doing here because the Titans playing them Sunday. Yeah, Brian Robinson, 29th on the list at 537. Eckler, 37th at 355. Jaden Daniels, 28th on the list, 556, the leading rusher for the Washington Commanders.
Interesting. The thing is, those guys have been pretty good.
Yeah.
Like those aren't impressive numbers, but like, when I've watched them play, it's that's a nice, tandem of kind of complementary styles with Robinson and Eckler. But yeah, then you throw in, if you have a quarterback who can be a threat, I mean, to me, that's a great situation for a running back, which I think for Barkley and Henry, we're seeing that play out.
No doubt about it. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. We got more of your thoughts to get to on the running back conversation, on the Titans in general as well. We'll get to some of those next on our text line. Andrew Brunette coming up at 7:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Check out this week's Nashville's best deal. It's Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Gift card only good for the Tanger outlets in Antioch and the Side Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville. Also, join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs this Sunday for the pregame show, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. They'll break down the Titans' Week 13 matchup against the Commanders, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parma Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Andrew Brunette will join us here on the program here in about 10 minutes. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Ron on the text line, throwing the question out there. So if Henry or Barkley breaks Eric Dickerson's single-season record, do they deserve MVP? You know, we had a similar conversation a few years ago when Derrick Henry was potentially going to do that. He did get over 2,000 yards, and how that factors into the MVP race. It always feels like a quarterback is going to win the award, and I would certainly say that Josh Allen is in a pretty good spot to win it right now. Lamar Jackson continues to play well. I mean, you could find your litany of quarterbacks that are going to be involved here. But, I mean, like Saquon or Derrick Henry, if they end up pushing 2,000 yards or certainly surpassing it, then I think there will at least be a conversation about it, where typically there's not. It's just the quarterback.
Yeah, of course. It can't hurt. And as I said to Ron, you know, he's asked, like, how long has it been? He said, well, it's in 1984. I mean, you're talking 40 years now since that record that Eric Dickerson set with the Rams, but it was in 16 games. It is now 17 games. And Ron says, in this day and age, backs can barely get 1,800 with the passing offense. Yeah, I mean, you could look at that both ways too, right? You could look at it like back then, you know, the running game was featured, and you know, defenses were bigger and stronger and built to stop the run, and now, you know, it's a little bit of zagging when people think you're going to zig if you're going to run the ball. And like you talked about, Robby, it's all cyclical. Ultimately, running the ball is always going to work in the NFL. I mean, and stopping the run is always going to be important in the NFL. Yes, it is much more of a pass-heavy league, so you could be more impressed with that for sure. It's also, you know, you are doing that against defenses that are built to stop the pass now. So however you want to spin it. I mean, I'm just saying it's not a guarantee. Like, if Barkley or Henry were to break that record, I think that would be a strong comment on their chances to win MVP. But, like, if the Ravens win out and Lamar Jackson is doing ridiculous things, then he's going to get votes for MVP that instead of Derrick Henry, I would think, you know?
I would think so too.
And it's just, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, that's the most important position in sports.
Well, like even the Eagles, like Jalen Hurts is having a pretty good year. Now, is he going to be in the MVP conversation? I don't know. Like, I guess I could pull up the odds here and see what the MVP looks like. I mean, right now it's what you would think. Josh Allen is number 1. Lamar Jackson's at 2. Jared Goff's at number 3. I will say Saquon's at 4 right now. So Saquon is at number 4 in terms of the odds. You keep going down the list, and it's a pretty good ways before you get to Derrick Henry, who's at plus 10,000. He's behind Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. So Saquon's at 4. It's a while before you get to Derrick Henry on that list.
And I bet you that took a leap right off the last game from Saquon, because he was just insane in that game. So, you know, Derrick Henry, all he did was, you know, run for 140 the next day, you know, and help John Harbaugh continue to dominate his little brother. Man, poor Jim. Jim can't beat his brother, man.
Apparently not.
But you know, if Derrick Henry has a 250 and 3 coming up here, then those odds will probably get better.
It kind of feels like if it keeps going the way it is right now, you know, look, I think also, I mean, I've said this earlier, but raise my hand, I was dead wrong about Buffalo. Like, I thought they'd take a step back this year after they lost Diggs. But Josh Allen and what he's doing, the big kind of signature play he had against Kansas City in that game, and what he's doing with a receiving core that I think what we're starting to see is a little bit better than people thought it was, but also his ability to just carry those guys. Like if he keeps playing this way, he's going to win the MVP.
He's got a real good chance. Yeah, I mean Cooper is a big add for
No
that
doubt.
receiving core, and Keon Coleman is a good draft pick.
Yeah.
He's been hurt though, so yeah, he's been really really good, and it's probably his turn. You know,
Your boy Jared Goff though, he's in there. Even the 5-pick game against Houston was not enough to totally derail him in this conversation.
that one's hard. To me, it's like he's got to be insanely dominant statistically and put a 5 spot in the pick column.
10-1 though, or whatever they are.
Okay.
they're
Yeah, for
10-1.
sure. But I think people recognize that they are not nearly as carried by him as the Bills are by Josh Allen, right? Or the Ravens are by Lamar Jackson. And that's even with, again, Derrick Henry's having an incredible season, but Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes carry those teams.
I mean, Mahomes is 5th on the list. I would put him, I think, way further down. I mean, having said that, I realize they're also 10-1.
Yeah, like it's not his fault that the Chiefs defense couldn't, was struggling with Bryce Young the other day, right? I mean, he made the plays, but still his numbers are. They've also had some games where the defense is really the better part of their
several
team.
games. Like that, yeah.
And that's just so I think he's just sort of in there because he's always going to be in there. He's probably going to end up not winning as many as maybe he should in the end, which you could argue was the same thing with Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean his numbers are good. Like he's completing basically 70% of his passes, 2,600 yards, 7 an attempt, 18 touchdowns, 11 picks. He has thrown a lot of picks this year. That old Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Taking some chances. He's a gunslinger out there now. Taking chances with the ball.
He's had some weird picks.
Yes.
And I agree with you, Trevor. Ravens-Eagles this weekend. Why is that not flexed?
It's going to be
prime
awesome.
time.
Yep.
That's a great – is that at least a 3?
I don't know.
God, if that's a noon game. They're doing all these weird flexing. They just flex something from a Sunday to a Thursday for later in the season.
It is a 3:25 CBS game.
All right.
Imagine you'll have Tony Romo out there. Jim, can you believe this? It's unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette with us coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Preds taking on the Philadelphia Flyers tonight at Bridgestone Arena. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. Andrew, good morning. How are you?
Morning, guys. Doing good. Good.
Happy early Thanksgiving to you and your family. Big time of year around here.
Yeah, to you guys too. Fun time of year for sure.
Yep, no doubt about it.
Well, real quick, do you like banana pudding?
I love banana pudding.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, love it.
I always knew I could count on Andrew Brunette.
Unbelievable. I
My
figure
goodness.
I got
That's a
from
head of
Canada.
pumpkin. It's a head of pumpkin pie. I love it. I love banana.
Oh, good
Banana
stuff.
pudding, banana cream pie. Yeah,
I shouldn't have asked.
Absolute legend.
We have a lot of arguments on this show about it. I think it's very overrated, but that's cool.
Well, Andrew, obviously not the results you guys were looking for against New Jersey. And we were talking about this earlier on the show. Like Saturday night against Winnipeg, a lot of good things that your group did. And it felt like, to me anyway, they took a step 5-on-5 and just unable to replicate that against New Jersey. And Steven Stamkos was talking about that a little bit on Saturday night too, in terms of you'll have a good performance, and to this point, you've just been unable to really build on that. So from your perspective, I guess how surprising is it that that's been the case, and what's the process been like for you, the players, and the coaching staff trying to find some way to gain some traction here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been kind of obviously frustrating process, I think, for everybody. And I think sometimes frustration creeps in, and frustration is kind of ugly at times. Brings out the worst in you. So I think we've kind of gone through this pattern even within games where we've played really well or we look like, what we should look like, what we feel we would look like for 20 minutes. And then we're disarray for the next 20. And then we're fighting back in the game and kind of lose all your structure in the next 20. And it's kind of been the story of a little bit of our season. And if you look at it, I thought we played a great game again in Winnipeg. We talked about following it up, that consistency that, we believe, trust is built with doing the same thing over and over, and the consistency in how we play and how we do things and take care of details, et cetera. So we're really having a hard time getting that trust in our game. And just even going into the Jersey game, they're a really good team. Obviously I was there a couple years ago, and they've added some really good pieces, and they're as good as we're going to see all year. Nevertheless, we kind of start the game with some sloppy puck play, and we can't get to our game, and then we take a penalty, and then we feed. They're a really good power play, and they're skilled guys, and they're a high skilled team, and they felt good for the first 10 minutes because sort of self-inflicted. So it was really hard for us to get going. Kind of felt like we're getting to our game by the end of the first, and then we have a mistake early in the second, and then things snowball, and that's kind of been a little bit like a lot of games this year. And I think as a group we're frustrated. We know we can get there. I thought the road trip showed signs of a little bit of that consistency. Didn't get all the results we wanted, but it was a little disappointing. And in saying all that, it was a tough, obviously playing Jersey was tough, and we came off a 13, 14-day trip, and you come home for one, you take off, and you land in Jersey, and it was a tough one. So we got to regroup. We got to keep building. There's signs. We just need that consistent effort for 60 here, and it's been a battle all year.
So, Andrew, with this many veterans and accomplished veterans on the team, why do things snowball like that? Why do things get off track like that with this team?
Well, I think everybody's feeling it, a little bit. I think even though you're mentally thought it'd be a little easier, and chemistry would come easy, and geez, we're adding these pieces. So if we add these pieces, scoring will come easy. They're not saying they're not working, but I think your mindset is that we're going to be scoring. It's going to be, like I said, come a lot easier than we thought. And then you kind of fall behind the eight ball, and you're 10 games in, you don't have any points or any goals, and you're kind of squeezing it. And I think it's hard as a player. It's really hard mentally when you're fighting it a little bit, and I wouldn't say lose your confidence, but it's just nothing's going your way. And we kind of straighten it out, and we get into a game, and we get kind of going. And even with veteran guys, I was one myself. When you're not scoring, when you're supposed to score, it's hard, and it's not fun. And you revert to doing some things that maybe aren't really helping you, but you believe they help you because they've allowed you to score goals your whole life, or play your best hockey, not even just a goal scorer. Some of our defensive players, are feeling it too, where there are big minuses. And so I think everybody individually is struggling a little bit with that, with a little bit of the confidence, and it deviates from your team game. It deviates from your teamwork as a teammate. It's just a real dangerous thing, and it's creeped into a lot of our games, and the frustration's kind of taken over the excitement and enthusiasm for playing, and it makes it a lot harder. And it's hard. It's hard as a player when things aren't going your well, that you can take a step out and see that. And that's what we're trying to get to. Again, it's been a work in progress, and we'll keep working at it till we figure this out.
So, Andrew, we talked after the game Saturday about the 5-on-5 play taking a pretty significant step forward. What specifically, when you guys are going 5-on-5, do you think really allows you guys to have that success, and how do you get to it and sustain it more often as you move forward?
Yeah, I think when you see us and when we're connected, when you see guys that are close together, we smother teams, we're on top of teams. We seem to have the puck a lot. We're in a territorial kind of game, a little bit like the Winnipeg game, and we've seen signs of it at different games this year. And that to me is just being the connected part, where there's 5 guys and we're above things, and we're close to things, we're close to each other, and then we kind of turn it around and come back at you in waves. And we have kind of had trouble sustaining that, for many different reasons, some of them that we just talked about. But yeah, it's been hard to keep that kind of connectivity going for the 60 minutes. And it's, like I said, it's still work. You see it at signs, and there's signs that you're excited about. But again, just that sustainability has been a challenge for us.
As a coaching staff, what has this been like? Just as you guys are talking through things, obviously you're doing all the things coaches do. You're watching all the video and everything, but I mean, have you spitballed some different ideas to try to get certain guys going or anything, or is it not time to go outside the box? You just have to kind of keep working.
I think we're always spitballing and always talking and trying to find, we're trying to find some chemistry. We're trying to find some continuity with different players. We're talking with them. So we're trying all kinds of different things, and we'll keep working at it. And like I said, you see some signs and you get excited, and we hope to see some more signs here going forward. So it's been a grind for sure. I think, talking from even the summer early in the year, we kind of knew it'd be a little bit of a process, but you always, it's just human nature. I mean, it's a process, but you always wish it's a little easier. It's been a little harder than I think we all thought too.
So, Andrew, from an injury perspective, a health perspective, McCarron has been out the last couple of games. Jeremy Lazan went down last game. LaRue takes the cross check directly to the face at the end of the game last time out. Just where are you guys from an injury standpoint heading into this one?
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of an update later today. We're in the grind of the season, and we've had a lot of games, like I said, to travel. So lots of things happen. Yeah, we're in one. I think a lot of teams are very similar this time of year.
So, Andrew, Philip Tomasino, obviously, at the end of last year, you made no bones about it, that he needed to elevate some things. In the end, did not end up working out. I guess, how would you, assess this season for him, and maybe how things even look for him moving forward as he moves into a different chapter of his career?
Yeah, I think he came in good shape. I thought he skated really well. We just couldn't really grab traction with him. And he was put in a tough spot where, obviously we're trying to find, a lot of guys are trying to find our games. And I thought, at times you could see it, just similar to last year. But I think maturity wise, he's taken a big step. And there's times where he couldn't hold on to it. And like a lot of our guys, we're just all kind of in that same pattern this year. And so he's going forward. I mean, you always like his offensive instincts, and like I say, he's grown a lot he's matured as a person, just being around him and as a player. And of course you wish him the best and see what happens. And you just wish, you could have did a little bit more and had a little bit more traction with him. But unfortunately in our business, that's how it goes sometimes.
Well, Andrew, we're looking forward to the game coming up tonight. Appreciate so much you taking time to be with us on the program this morning. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Andrew Brunette, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Predators taking on the Philadelphia Flyers tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Got the Flyers tonight, Tampa Bay on Friday at home, and then John Hines and the Minnesota Wild on Saturday on the road. So 3 games in 4 days coming up here for the Predators. And you heard him kind of mention it there, Joe. Going through a little bit of the injury part of this right now. With McCarron being out, we'll see what his status looks like. Lozon went down in the middle of the game the other day, and LaRue took one. I have no idea if LaRue is able to play or not, but a cross-check to the face where Timo Meyer's been suspended 1 game for it as well. So interested to see who's available and who's not for them tonight in the game.
Gave him the opportunity to break that news on our show. He wouldn't do it.
Didn't do it. He did say that he likes
something to do
banana
with my
pudding.
hatred for. Well, maybe that's the problem because I hate banana pudding.
Yeah, maybe so.
What are you doing, PK? What is he
telling us
wearing?
to wrap it up.
What is PK wearing? It looks like he's like Indiana Jones or
It's
something.
Baltimore. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Just stop playing Jared. Jared's so annoying. No disrespect. No disrespect.
No disrespect,
With all due
Jared.
respect.
All due respect, you're
Just-
annoying, Jared.
Just when you're screaming and it's 3:00 after my 7-hour day of school, it is the most annoying thing. Number one of my pet peeves. Oh, I could say a lot about Jared, but
here we go.
I'll choose kindness.
I can't help myself if Stillbilly thinks thinks if he and I were standing side by side, I would be picked as the hillbilly.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. I don't know that we'll ever top yesterday's Rex Rant with Caroline Rexrode, basically just putting Joe on blast for about 10 consecutive minutes.
Well, she should have disrespected Stilly.
She did a little
no
bit,
disrespect, but I'm going to disrespect him.
She
That's
kinda
great.
did.
Yeah.
With all due respect, I can now say
Stop
anything I
talking about
want.
Stilly.
I can say everything I want now.
Did you call him Stillbilly?
She did not. Damn. A missed opportunity there.
It's still
still making the rounds.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's lasting forever.
By the way, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com is with us. Hey, Pete.
Good to
PK,
see
how
you,
doing?
boys.
Good
Good
to see
conversation
you.
coming in. One thing you didn't mention about Austin Eckler, huge pass receiver. So
Yes.
his total numbers,
Oh, yeah.
he's one of those guys.
And he
that-
gets touchdowns, too.
He also got smoked at the end of the game on Sunday, so we'll see what that status looks like.
So I got a grab bag today. A few things. For real quick, I just wanna express to the College Football Playoff Committee. Clemson jumps 5 spots last week to 12 because they beat the Citadel 51-14.
Oh,
So just like Alabama, that Mercer win really registered. That,
games that shouldn't
that
be
big
scheduled.
win over the Citadel gets them 5. That's ridiculous that they're 12. So this is what they've done. They got blown out 34-3 by Georgia, beat a bunch of crappy teams, got smoked at home by Louisville 33-21. And they got lucky and beat Pitt on the road. And, I mean, great run by Klubnik to win that game 24-20, and then they beat the Citadel. They're 12th. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Pump up Clemson.
So I also want to address – go ahead and read what you just read to me, Robby, during the break. Well, I have to deal with this now.
You're
Still-
doing exactly what your daughter instructed you not to do.
That is
Yeah,
true.
I know, but, I
You
got
don't listen,
to
Dad.
defend myself.
Dad, you don't listen.
Can I defend myself?
Well, nobody knows there's anything for you to defend yourself from unless you read this.
He read it to me, so now it's in my brain.
Still Billy put it out there. By the way, Barry Trotz joining him at 5 o'clock today, so look forward to that. No Jared versus Joe, but between Caroline Rexrode telling us that Joe listens to the end of our segments in the garage and his horrendous banana pudding take today, I'd like to claim a victory.
When doesn't he claim a victory, by the way? All he does is his whole life is claiming victory.
wins.
He also claims that there are people that are obsessed with his show. Now, I mean, are you serious? If you want to talk about add up the time of people talking about people, it's not close. Robby,
He
back me up.
consumes more media
would
than
assume.
anybody on earth.
But let me just make it clear, because yes, Caroline brought this up yesterday, that I pick her up from school and she has to listen to Stilly in the car. And yes, sometimes absolutely, it's good. I like to listen to it. I'm like, go ahead. I'm listening to the end of the segment. So when I get in the car after this show, I listen to Chase and Big Joe. And if I'm in the car in the midday, I listen to DVD because I'm a fan of all of our shows and I support our shows. So it's pretty simple. So when kids get out of school, that's during the 2 to
That's gotta
6
be hard to
frame
say.
when your show is on. You see how that works? Thank you.
It's got to be hard to say.
Well, I think his mental image is you get home and you send all the children inside and you're like, if you guys need me, I'll be out here in the garage.
Now,
in the
here's
car.
what he-
For hours. Just sitting there for hours.
Here's what he's
What did
like.
he say?
I'm rewatching The Americans, the fine show.
Great show.
He's kind of like the KGB operatives with like the radio and the earpiece, and he's like, he's doing everything.
Got
God
some
bless him.
fire.
I mean, he hears my podcast after the game.
Yeah.
He hears like if John Glennon makes an appearance on AM radio,
It's truly
he's familiar
impressive.
with it.
Yeah.
He hears everything.
It's
It's
pretty
true.
impressive.
And you know this because you're obsessed with him, which is really what
No, I'm not
rant
obsessed
should
with
be,
him.
right?
He just refers to stuff that's like nobody else on earth has heard.
No, he does have some like bad like Boston radio takes that he's got ready at snap of the finger. One other thing I wanted, since this is just a grab bag today, and we don't have a show tomorrow, we will be back 8 to 11 Friday.
We will.
Friday though.
8
But
to 11.
yeah, but
Sleeping in.
I do want to I want to head off I've heard you do this. I heard you do it on your previous show, And I couldn't disagree more. Now, you shouldn't spend a whole show before Thanksgiving talking about your food taste. There's nothing wrong with talking about food the day before Thanksgiving. Like, oh, it's talk radio cliche. Whatever, man. Like you're doing some highfalutin Ivy League radio. It's okay to talk about Thanksgiving food the day before Thanksgiving on a sports talk show.
It's the laziest, most boring thing. If you want to assure people flip to your competition, well, unfortunately, if they flip to your competition, talks about nothing else. So there would be no sports talk radio. There would be no sports talk radio in Nashville that wasn't talking about if you like stuffing or not. If you guys are talking about if you like stuffing,
do you like stuffing?
I'm not talking about.
No,
food
answer the question. Do you like stuffing or not?
Yes, I like stuffing.
All right, you just participated.
To talk about. Hey, it's Arbor Day, everyone. Today we're going to talk about our favorite trees. Hey, it's
I like those guys do what day it is. I like
deciduous trees. Awesome.
Yeah, it's so tired and lazy because once you do it, you've done it. And I don't need a reminder this year about your take on banana pudding last year and the year before and the year before. Well, and hopefully you're on the radio.
Well, maybe you don't evolve as a human, but you know what? My palate has evolved through my life.
It's the most. What's your favorite Halloween candy? What's the best Christmas present you ever got? What's your best memory of your father? What's your best memory of your mother? Name
now
a
we're
holiday.
going to a dark place.
Well, name your holiday and
like?
You do shtick on it. It's so bad. It's awful, awful radio. Period.
What a whiner.
That's not whining. That's fact. Come up with better material. You guys are great, except if you fall into that, and then you're crap.
No, now I want to spend the next hour breaking down the different segments of a Thanksgiving meal with you. I'm going to keep directing the conversation to your food takes the rest of the show. This is going to suck for you.
Now we got some echo in here.
We're having some fine barbecue.
Fine barbecue?
Yeah. We've ordered,
don't do the turkey?
We've ordered barbecue from the fine sponsor of my podcast, and I'll be picking it up. My wife's making macaroni and cheese on top of that, and that's our simple Thanksgiving dinner.
Really?
Now people are yelling at you all for not calling it dressing instead of
not calling stuffing dressing.
Yeah, that's a big thing around here.
That's a Southern way to
call it whatever you want, but do it outside the confines of a sports talk show that's talking about something more sophisticated than what we like to eat.
Here we go. 615-737-1025, our phone number. A smorgasbord of rants from Rexrode.
Call the ambulance.
Jumping in there. We will have all things Tennessee Titans coming up with Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. Lots to get into from the Titans' performance against Houston, looking ahead to the Washington game as well. We'll have more of that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour here on the program, talking all things Tennessee Titans, brought to you by Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa and Parman Energy. Visit parmanenergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. Also check out as always, we'll take your best questions on our text line, driven by wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Brought to you by Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa, a $50 gift card to the best question. So hit them up, 615-737-1025.
Do you feel like you're in a movie? Nick Frazier runs in and he adjusts the cameras. It's like a grip, runs the lighting, the
key grip.
Yeah, I kind of do.
Hey, before we get
Except
Titans
that you
talk,
look at the actual production, it's not very movie-like.
I'm going to end this injury. I'm going to end this argument before it starts. Hillbilly is a term for people who's it started in the Appalachian, and it as the people migrated out of the region during the Depression, the term spread northward and westward with them. That's also from the dictionary. Okay,
you paying attention to
hillbilly
now?
can be.
What about bye week?
Well, that's BS.
Okay.
Well, that's a faulty dictionary. The definitions are good when they suit my arguments.
I'm going to research.
And they're bad
this.
when they don't.
I like that. That's fair. I mean, we all do that. I'm going to look for a map. I'm going to research. I'm going to find a map of where you see all these maps on Twitter and stuff.
There's hills everywhere.
Yeah, it's not really about the hill. It's about the billy.
The billy can be anywhere.
It's more about the billy than the hill.
That's another shirt. It's not really about the hill. It's about the billy.
Yeah, that's
we
a
get
good
this
shirt
going
with the silhouette of
still
billy.
I'm from Michigan, which is very north. There are hillbillies in Michigan. I promise you.
But I promise you, the percent of the population is lower in Michigan than it is in Tennessee.
Okay. I mean, sure.
Okay, well, that's my point.
Now it's just it's a majority now? Oh, okay.
Yes,
you were trying to say it's confined to the South, and that's not true. You hate the South so much.
I don't hate the South. I
You're
love
such a hater where you live.
I lived here longer than I've lived anywhere in my life. I like it here very much.
Except for all the people
I don't like the hillbillies. I mean, do you love everything about where you live, or are there certain things you don't like? I don't like that it's 120 degrees on some summer days. I do like that it doesn't get freezing cold. See how that works?
No, this is very
There's
tired.
some things I like and some things I don't like.
No, this is very tired sports radio. Keep going.
Well,
how
now
about
we're
turkey?
talking about
white meat or dark meat with the
as
turkey.
people. Okay. Yeah, that's the same.
Let's get in there.
This guy's he's hanging too much with the stilly, and the idiocy is getting into his brain.
Who? I don't know who that is.
The still Billy.
So PK, we had the discussion with you on Monday about Levis. 3 games in a row that he stacked. That's looked pretty good. Now, granted, there was a pick 6 involved on Sunday. They took 8 sacks in the game, so it's not perfect out there. But you asked this to Brian Callahan, so I'll ask it to you. Is what we've seen the last 3 weeks, if that's what he is, and that's what he continues to play like moving forward, is that good enough to be their guy, their quarterback moving forward?
It's good enough to be their quarterback next year, I think. If he plays at this level or better the rest of the season, I don't think they're looking for a starting quarterback next year. Maybe somebody better than Rudolph in the second spot. But I was talking to somebody with another team this week, and he said, they aren't. Despite what you may think, there aren't really good quarterbacks out there to be had in that role. He either is or he isn't. And I'd say if he plays like this the rest of the season, after we talked from 30,000 feet about what we wanted to see was improvement from the start to the end, he will have achieved that. And then he is.
You get the set. Do you believe? Because I did think, I think Brian Callahan's been very open throughout the whole process. Obviously, maybe reserving some comment when it was going poorly versus being more, that's typical, right? There's some level of coach speak always, but do you get the sense that's how they feel? That's how he feels.
I certainly think they're feeling a lot better about it than they were, in week 5. I don't think Brian Callahan thinks 30,000 feet on November, whatever we are. I don't think he can allow himself to do that. Maybe there's a moment here and there where he thinks, wait, this could be something. But I think he's got so much to worry about that he can't think that way. Now, Rand and Chad maybe are thinking that way. because they can look at it from 30,000 feet. So I think probably he feels pretty good about the way things are going. I will say the amount of enthusiasm for this team off of one win in the public is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And people are actually playing out playoff scenarios. I sent out the New York Times, playoff simulator thing that gives them a 2% chance. And people are sending me back like how it can happen. And I'm saying this team hasn't won 2 in a row in 2 calendar years.
That's a wild stat.
Let's see 2 in a row first. And if they get 2 in a row, then talk about 3 in a row. If they win in Washington, there's a segment of the population that's going to be like, this is happening.
Yeah. But the schedule, the schedule does.
The schedule's favorable, but
after this game,
still a bad football team. The body of work is 3-8.
Best 3-8 team I've ever seen.
Yeah, 3-8 coming off a good win. But let's calm down.
One thing that I would push back on a little bit, because you talked about seeing improvement from the start of the year to the end of the year, and I would agree with you in general. Having said that, I would also argue it was so bad at the start of the year that the starting point was not where the expectation was with Levis. Now, maybe now we're getting a little bit past the starting point. Like the way he's played the last 3 weeks, had he done that the first 3 weeks of the year, I guarantee you the conversation would have been, wow, look at this guy. Brian Callahan's coming in and immediately he's making an impact on the quarterback and he's playing good football. But when you factor in the entire picture, I'm with you. If he plays this way the rest of the way out, I think he'll be the quarterback next year. But I can't just base it on improvement from start to finish because the start was so bad with him.
Yeah, he needs more here to continue to overwhelm the finish. But if I told you at the beginning of the year, by the end, he was going to be a 250 a game guy, you would have been fine with it.
100%.
Now, it's still very much, not very much, but it's still similar. And if you look at his games last year, it's still similar to what the Vrabel team was. And I think there's still a degree of disappointment, fair disappointment, that what they are going to look like is largely that. Though the dynamic element the last 3 weeks, and particularly in this game, has been really
they
nice.
did score points in this game finally.
Yeah, right. You go from averaging 15 in the 2 losses to this. But those 3 teams, if you look at Chargers, Vikings, Houston, I think they're 3 of the top 7 defenses. We know the numerical defensive rankings can be misleading, but clearly those are 3 good defenses.
Yep.
The 3 that Rudolph played against before that, nowhere near as good. So that's super encouraging. And the ones coming up, nowhere near as good. So can you not only really maintain it like you're talking about, Robby, but take it further because you've got lesser defenses that you
and not give the other team free touchdowns, which he did do in this last game.
But at least that's a conventional interception. At least the guy had to make a big return. It was easy, but and they recovered from it. Like you were saying Monday, they were conservative after that. You'd like to get to a point where if he throws a quote unquote normal pick 6 that's like a punt, they can resume playing offense as they did before and don't have to hit all the dials and say, okay, we're turning from our regular 8, we're turning down to a 3 now because we're on DEFCON situation here where we're worried about him.
His pick 6s aren't as weird now as they were early in the year.
Well, when you start out with the first one in Chicago, it's hard to
miracle flip is hard to replicate.
I agree with Callahan when he kind of says they happen. Yeah, they happen. You don't want them to happen very often. I'd like though for them not to be like, okay, he's thrown one. Now we gotta everybody bring it down.
Yeah,
bring it down. That's a little disconcerting.
Gotta let it
rip. Because what if it comes? This one was in the second half, maybe third quarter, and they were in good shape. I don't remember precisely when, but what if it happens in the first? What if it happens in the first quarter?
Right. Yeah. We can't.
All right, scrap the game plan.
We're done.
Plan B.
Tony Pollard Wildcat.
Plan B. Vanilla it up.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Take more of your questions for PK on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, 615-737-1025. A couple more thoughts to get to on Will Levis and his performance moving forward coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com is with us here on the program. PK, a texter accusing you of losing your edge. Yesterday, he texted this in, which sparked our Steely and Voldemort conversation. He says, as in college and like last year, Levis had a good game and 2 games that weren't a disaster, as if he'll be the next Mahomes. Still don't understand Kuharski's love of Levis, but he's lost his edge as a journalist.
Wow.
The sudden talk that Levis is so great is wishful thinking at best. No way I've changed my mind. Dump him. He'll be at best a low, moderately competent, often injured player.
This guy,
if you don't agree with that take, you lost your edge as
this
a
guy
journalist.
obviously hates Kentucky. He's a UT guy.
Oh.
Look, I don't love Levis, and I don't think – where did I say Levis is the next Mahomes? I said they're going to have a Vrabel-like offense. A Vrabel-like offense minimizes the quarterback, relies on the run, relies on the defense, finds some big plays off of play action. And I don't think they have a chance to go find Mahomes when they need to cure right tackle, cure edge, cure receiver, and find depth virtually tight end, find depth virtually everywhere on the roster. Can be a finish the roster draft and go forward. And if he plays like he's playing now, you can win games.
I sense a lot of love in your voice there, but maybe that's just me. Dennis has a couple good questions. I think one about where do we rank NWI and all-time Titans wide receivers. I think we have to wait until let's see the story finish, Dennis.
Let the picture end there.
But this one, he says, what's a better situation next season? A first round QB with basically the same O-line, or Levis with a first-round tackle added to the line. I will quickly say to that, Dennis, I know the draft people do not like the offensive tackles in this draft. I will tell you that. I don't know that
or really the
there will be many – or the quarterbacks, right. So, but that is that's kind of what we're talking about. That's a good question.
Just this thing, I want to talk people out of this thing where you have to predetermine what round you take what position in. Like not knowing what your draft position is, not knowing the full pool of the players, them not having finished their season, all of that. I mean, if there's a phenomenal edge rusher there and a lesser tackle, then you got to take the edge rusher and wait on the tackle.
They badly need that too.
People are desperate for me and for everybody to say what position's going in what round.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen for me. And I think anybody that's saying it is foolish. In their top 3 picks, and hopefully they're back in the 3rd round or get a second rounder or whatever by trading. We know what they need to address. The right tackle needs to be among it. And quite frankly, I think they've got to find a right tackle somewhere outside of the 1st round, because they've invested so much capital in the offensive line. You go back to Isaiah Wilson, 1st rounder. Then they chase it with Dylan Radin's 2nd round. Then they chase it with Nick Petit-Frere in the 3rd round. That's in a span of what? 4 years? You spend 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
That was 3 straight years.
3 years.
3 straight drafts.
3 years, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick. It's time to find a guy who, ideally is at the back end of those 3 rounds, not at the front end.
Well, you brought up either last week or the week before, one of the worst things that you can get into as an organization is forcing it at quarterback. One thing that Levis, I think, has done, and if he plays this way will continue to do, is to put you in a spot where you don't have to do that. Because quite frankly, had he come in and played the same way he played at the beginning of the year, you could not have trotted him back out there as starting quarterback next year. Not to me anyway.
No.
So he is, I think if he continues on this route, you still look at the draft, you evaluate Shadur Sanders and you evaluate Cam Ward and all these other guys. And like I said yesterday, Joe, if you look at it and you say, yeah, we feel like Cam Ward's great and he falls to you, then take him. That's fine. But you no longer are forced to do something at quarterback this offseason if he continues to look like he's looked the last 3 weeks, which is big considering the rest of the holes that they've got.
Well, I mean, and like Carson Beck, is Carson Beck actually going to be a 3rd round QB? Like that could be another, and I know
they don't have a 3rd round pick, so they got to get a 3rd round pick.
Okay, so there you go.
For starters, they got to get a 3rd round pick.
But
like, see, I'd be against that.
Like
Stop throwing the pick at like the Malik Willis pick. That's such a dumb pick. If you think about it. Unless you're like, holy crap, I actually think that's the guy, and we get him here.
I mean, I in general agree with you, but it's all about how you evaluate that particular person, right? I mean, you may actually luck out. Jackson said, "Oh, by the way, this guy says he went to Northwestern and Yale, not UT. Northwestern and Yale. I think that might be.
I was going to Northwestern. I got deferred by Columbia. I enrolled at Northwestern,
but he went to both Northwestern and an Ivy League school. You only went to an Ivy League school. I'm just saying.
I went to an Ivy League school twice.
This guy beat you,
by the way. I have 2 degrees.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, to be a sports writer, that's really smart. Oh my goodness,
the job market was tough.
Brian Summers says Titan play calls after the pick 6 were 6 passes and 5 runs. In fact, right after the pick 6, they went pass on the next drive. They didn't take the ball out of his hands. Are you going senile? Is that what Brian Summers is saying?
I haven't looked specifically at what those passes were. Like, were they screens? I don't know. It was.
I don't remember.
It was generally
one of them was the chick play, right? Like one of them
was the next possession,
right
after the pick 6.
No, there was a possession. Then they got to stop. Then the chick play.
But the chick play wasn't some.
So
big,
it was after the pick
dangerous...
6 in the game. That was what I'm saying.
Yeah. It just wasn't the direct next possession.
The chick play wasn't some big dangerous play.
It
turned into something great.
It was a great play.
Great play design.
You threw it 4 yards.
Yeah. Ridley drew a lot of attention on the other side of the field. It was a well-designed, well-executed play for sure.
On the sack front, so 8 sacks. Brian Callahan talked the other day a little bit about, still for Levis to learn to get rid of the ball and situational. He talked about him climbing up in the pocket and him wanting to avoid sacks on 1st and 10 and those things. But overall, we read off the PFF grades, and you could take that for what they are with the tackles. Not a good day from Latham on Sunday. NPF kind of is what he is. But overall, what are you seeing from Levis in terms of holding on to the ball, the balance of when to do that, when to get rid of it, and how much do you think you can really learn pocket presence, the ability to get rid of the ball as Callahan's trying to kind of coach him through this?
Well, I think that was a halftime adjustment we saw there.
Yes.
He had sacked 7 times in the first half. Second half, only once, was getting rid of the ball more quickly. So that was a good development. They did some things in the second half that they don't generally do, including scoring 12 points, which is a lot for them. So
triple their average.
Yeah. So look, his pocket awareness is, I don't think, ever going to be a strength. It's kind of like, a drastic change in accuracy. You see it from Josh Allen. And he's a meteor that you don't see very often with the big change like that. His pocket presence can get better, but you're ever going to look at him and say, "Boy, that guy's got great pocket presence"? No, I don't think so. When the offensive line is better, there'll be a better pocket for him to have a feel about. So that'll automatically improve when the pocket improves. I think he talked about, only losing a yard or 2. Which is a big difference than losing 8 yards. You lose 8 yards and your series is over with this team for sure, and with most teams. But you lose 1 or 2, and you live to continue to fight in that series, hopefully. So I think that's a difference as well. He dirts the ball occasionally. We were discussing this the other day. Like, when's the last time you saw him just throw a ball out of bounds?
Right.
He likes to keep. Yeah, he wants a play to live. He wants to keep the life in the play, sometimes to his detriment.
Yeah. So I think that's an area of pocket presence that can get better.
I'd read a story about that, about pocket presence improvement, because I don't really know. I mean, it's it's not, again, I always thought like Bryce Young in college was like, he's like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Like
he actually has spidey sense. Like, how did he possibly know to duck then or whatever and extend a play? Some people are incredible at it, Kyler Murray. And some people it's just because they're so elusive. I got to think you can improve that more likely than you can improve accuracy, right?
Tell us how you missed on Bryce Young. I'd like to hear you.
Hey, you look pretty good.
You're looking pretty good last week there, buddy.
Mea culpa.
Well, I mean, right now it looks like I'm going to be wrong, but I'm not giving in yet. I'm not throwing the towel in on Bryce Young yet. I think seriously, like, he's playing pretty well.
He looked pretty
right
good
now.
the other day. Yeah.
Middle schooler.
He is very small.
Yes, Paul, we know he's small.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More coming up next with Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski with us here on the program. Best question for PK on our text line wins a $50 gift card to a Moments Beach Salon and Day Spa. So keep those questions coming, 615-737-1025. Will on Music Row says, if Denard Wilson gets a head coaching job this offseason, do the Titans get a comp pick, or is that only a front office personnel thing? I don't think Denard Wilson is going to be involved in
this.
But there would be a comp
This
pick.
is not a word. Yeah, they would get a comp pick. I don't think it would be in this draft. I think it would be in the next
one.
I'd be surprised if he made his way into the coaching search this offseason.
He's not getting a head coaching job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has a flawed roster, and he's never had his not never, but barely had his supposed top two corners. So overall, I think he's done well. But yeah, it's not like
it's done okay.
He's not going to be one of the top names in this coaching cycle. For one thing,
nobody's looking for a defensive coordinator off a 3-8 team.
Yeah,
generally speaking, I think
it's still the OCs are still hotter, and also then you have like the Vrabel Belichick dynamic that apparently they're both going to get in there.
Some defensive guys out there. I think next year if they add the pieces that they need on defense, they'll probably be pretty good, and his star will rise. But I don't think it's going to be a 1 year thing. Did you guys watch Vrabel on the Manning Cast?
Yeah, that had to be your question, right?
I think it was my question.
Right? It was like, well, after that long and stupid question, let me answer that.
Oh, it was definitely his question.
I don't remember. So you don't remember what the question was?
I don't remember specifically what the question was, but I do remember the exchange.
And I like how they played that. And he was like, I think I did elaborate better on that. Like, he didn't want to come off as too much of a jerk.
Right, yeah.
I told Robby, I said this on the show. I texted him before. I said, what is this crap? This is like the Mike Vrabel media tour to try to get a head coaching job. This better be funny. You know,
he wasn't. The Wilson brothers.
It wasn't that funny.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
they were phenomenal.
See,
I still have trouble watching it because there's still delays and talking over each other and stuff. But I did watch the game exclusively on that this week because of the guests, and I thought Vrabel and Belichick were going to be on together.
I did too. Great.
Which I thought is how they sold it initially, and I think they changed off of that. But I thought Vrabel was funny but short. And the Wilsons were so funny before him that he didn't appear that funny.
I mean, it was
also people are taking it seriously, like Urban Meyer asked him who he is. I think that's Urban Meyer's thing with people he knows.
That was funny.
Then I've seen a bunch of blog posts that are like Urban Meyer didn't know who he was. Like people have no ability to distinguish. Like
I'm the head coach of Tennessee Titans, and I worked for you for 2 years. It's a good line.
I actually remember that day. It was right after Urban's little bar games, little reindeer games at the bar.
I'll stay behind.
I remember
Wasn't it Thanksgiving time?
I think it was. No, it was their bye week.
It was earlier.
They played a Thursday
night game, and they stayed. But I remember that the next game at Jacksonville, because they were like, you got to write about Urban. And so I went down the field, and like the Vrabel Urban pregame, obligatory hug was. Oh yeah, I wrote about it. It was very warm. Let me tell you.
Did you mic him up? Vrabel go up to him and say, "How's the bar?"
Unfortunately,
did you have a good time?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Vrabel knows that bar. It's in Ohio.
Yeah, is it smoking allowed in there?
I don't know.
I mean, his PR right now is fantastic. He's crushing it. Vrabel, in terms of lining himself up in the public eye as the
he's got fan bases
what do you mean by that?
Clamoring all over it.
I just think he's like
his PR as in like he's got people working for
him working for him.
Oh, okay.
This thing where they're going from the collaborator movement is over and we're going to culture builders.
Right.
It didn't take long.
That's phenomenal work.
It really does help him it does help him that like big lovable goofball Dan Campbell's out there at 10-1, and people are like, "What about the big football guy who gets people riled up?"
A year ago, he was intimidating. The big football guy was scary.
Now he's
turned that around. Now you want that big guy.
Is he still too big? For the
he's
general
shrunk.
manager.
He's shrunk a little bit.
He's been doing some exercise.
He's arranged for all these interviews for that are upcoming. The GMs are going to stand on stools.
Yeah, who are the smallest GMs in the league?
He's learned to hunch.
That's a good question. I know this. He's got Browns fans all over him. They want him. Giants fans now, they want him some Vrabel. Like he's got people fighting over him now.
I think that New York, if he got there and he did the more jokey, less pissy with the press there, I mean, he could have them on a string for a while as compared to what they've had. You know, the faith in Vrabel out of the gate there. If you look at the list, I mean, Joe Judge, you bring in a guy that's actually done something after this list of coaches that they've had. I mean, Dave,
but he won't do that. He won't. He's going to be him. He's going to be an irascible,
No, I know.
But you can learn things from one job to the other, Joe.
The single biggest thing with
Vrabel, the thing
Vrabel,
is, he's actually hilarious in real life, but he won't do it.
the single biggest thing with Vrabel, we know this, is what kind of staff is he going to hire? Is he going to be Father Flanagan and get all his guys back together and get wowed by an interview by a guy who's never been a position coach? Or is he going to try to put together a really good staff?
That's a very good point.
Of the many things I would love to go back and just be a fly on the wall for the conversation for, the interview with Jason Hodling would be near the top of the list for the Titans. I mean, I'd love to hear the AJ Brown discussions. Or
no, you're right.
That interview. That one, like what kind of interview did he have? How could it have been
that good?
Vrabel's like, tell me more.
Did you get out, Jason? Get out on the field and you're like, oh my God.
Hey, look, I've got date night with my wife tonight, but let's pick this up tomorrow at 7. I'll bring donuts.
Text me later. We can continue.
By the way, you were wondering this yesterday, Joe. I've got the numbers for you. The Titans are no longer the number 1 defense in the league. They're down
they've been
to number
overtaken.
2.
They're 2 now?
Philadelphia has moved up to number 1, giving up 274
fly,
per game.
Eagles fly. There'll be some of that in my house if I share that news. I think Saquon is MVP right now, by the way. I mean,
he was unbelievable the other night.
That team is just quietly phenomenal. And I think Detroit's phenomenal, but I think Philly, I'd be scared of Philly if I was them. That'd be a hell of a NFC championship.
That'd be very good. Yeah. I mean, we were talking earlier, like some of these games that are getting flexed that I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, Eagles-Ravens this week. Can we have this as the
You made it like if that was a 1:00 game, it'd be such a burden to you when you're sitting home watching games on television.
Well, but
oh, what a trauma for Joe.
Well, I just no.
Has to box that game.
Who watches every game?
Has to box
he's got
that
the
game.
ticket package. He's like,
if this game isn't at least a 3:00 game, I'm going to be miserable. With my fingers are going to have to work the remote.
Well, but there's always like a lot of games worth watching, right? I want a game like that to be isolated so I can focus on it. Is that not fair?
Yeah, that's the biggest first world problem for a guy watching from his couch. Remember when you used to be in the press box and like you couldn't watch any of the other games because you were actually watching the game on the field?
So do you prefer gravy on stuffing or mashed potatoes?
By the way, have you seen enough from Calvin Ridley these last few weeks to convince you that he's figured it out here?
It sure seems like he's figured it out. I think he'll be probably a little up and down. I still think he's capable of dropping one here and there that are going to hurt you, but they said they'd figure it out. I think the biggest thing, the big moment was the shift from Rudolph to Levis. And I think most of us thought, oh, this is going to be tricky here because,
he's
they hadn't done anything. Yeah.
And they hadn't done anything together. And Levis did pick it up kind of where Rudolph left it off. And I mean, that's the reason to be a little bit excited about Levis is he's back to making those throws that we were talking about had disappeared and they're hitting shot throws. And they're talking like it's game plan stuff. They're talking almost like, well, this game allowed for it. Well, it didn't do it that much in the first game. What was the first game? Chargers, but Vikings and Texans, they found these plays. And I think if you're finding them there, you can find them. So it's not a game plan thing. It's a Will Levis thing to me.
Yeah.
So strength is his game. He's better at throwing those deep things than he is some of the intermediate things. And that's what Tim Kelly and Mike Vrabel found and emphasized in him. And I think Callahan kind of said, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. And
there's another thing where some stuff has taken too long.
I agree with that.
It took too long to figure out that Treylon Burks wasn't going to do anything and Nick Westbrook-Akine was better.
I would agree.
It took too long to get back to Will Levis wow throws. And so they're a bad football team early, and I understand it was going to be a slow development in a lot of ways, but some stuff just took too long.
I would also say, you go back to some of these earlier games, I mean, it's not like there were never vertical routes. It was sometimes he missed them, sometimes he couldn't get the ball out, right? Because he was sacked. So, I mean, and I know I'm saying this after an 8-sack game, but on some of those big plays in the last couple of games, he's actually been able to stand there and throw. What a revelation, you know?
Well, but to his point, though, like, he did try some of those vertical shots earlier in the year, and for whatever reason, like they just weren't connected that way. And it seems like it's coming in waves now. Like, he's making some big throws in these last couple of games that are just,
and when they make the big
really
throws,
good. And some of these guys are like really open too.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Here's the thing that's amazing. Like, they drove, what were the two drives? 89 and 95, which is fantastic. But this team, with its penchant for penalties, particularly, and we know, and they basically concede these drives when they're in 2nd and 15 or 3rd and whatever. When they get behind the sticks to a big degree, they concede a lot of these drives, right? They're like, all right, we're going to just do the best we can with field position. So that's why those two drives were remarkable. That was excellent. But you get a shot play in the middle of the drive or for a touchdown, and you eliminate the possibility of a false start killing your drive. You eliminate the possibility of a bad play that's a 4-yard loss killing your drive. That's, an obvious statement, but that's something that wasn't happening for them early in the season.
Yeah, those plays are good.
They are 615.
Big plays, good.
Bad plays, bad.
Weak analysis, but better than food talk.
Turkey, good.
We'll have one more segment with PK coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski with us from paulkuharski.com. Washington coming up. BK, you mentioned it. It is interesting. Like, if the Titans can go on the road and win this game, you got Jacksonville twice. You got the Colts. You got a Bengals team who puts up a ton of points, who has a horrible defense. And then the Texans again to close things out. I'm with you. Like, let's see them win a couple games in a row first before you start talking about any of that other stuff. I will say, like, defensively, Washington's got a good defense, but you just took down a defense that on paper was really good and did not play up to their standard on Sunday. An opportunity, going back to the Levis conversation, and for the offense as a whole, not just in the Washington game, but really moving forward here, where you feel like there's an opportunity to build. And if they can do it, it kind of leans back into what we were talking about earlier in terms of how you approach the offseason. Like, if Levis and the offense starts to look good here, then I think you start to, at least if you're a Titans fan, wonder, all right, well, maybe it just took them half a season to really get going with Brian Callahan. They got used to each other, and then the offensive results in the second half of the year were way better. I think that's a way easier sell heading into the offseason to keep Levis at quarterback if they're able to take advantage of some of these defenses that they're about to play.
That's a way easier sell for Brian Callahan. I mean, what a better offseason he would have if he could, point to growth in the second half of the season and progress for his system and progress for his quarterback, instead of coming off, 4 wins and unsurety about the quarterback and about the system. I mean, if they could get the point average up to, God forbid, 20 something, just something that starts with the 2, what an achievement that would be after these years of being in the teens. I think that changes a lot about the tone of the offseason, though I am pledging here, and I think I did it on Monday, I'm not having an optimistic offseason no matter what they do after 2 seasons of going to a degree on the hope train. I think I am more reserved than most, but I am pledging I will be the most reserved about what they do after buying too much into the run it back and too much into the free agent spending.
You say that, but then, like when they got Snead, I was like, whoa, L'Jarius Snead, that's big time. I mean, I'm sorry, but in the moment, it's a big time acquisition. Calvin Ridley was a big time acquisition, right? So if they do that, then what are you going to do?
Hey, that looks good, but let's see it. It looks good, but remember L'Jarius Snead.
Well, it
looks good, but remember how Calvin Ridley started.
Yeah, so Brian Callahan's interests, of course, are opposed to, I think, still a lot of Titans fans. Some are doing what you're talking about, like talking about the play, but there's still plenty to think about the draft, right? I think they're going to end up with 6 or 7 wins, which, is
really
good for him. Yeah, I think they'll win 3 more games.
Okay.
Well,
I think they'll win 3 more games, maybe a 4th, but I think they'll win 3 more. And if they do, it's not like it's some great thing for him, but it is progress in the season. I imagine that means Will Levis also playing well in more games. And, of course, it also means that they're going to be, like, picking 12th again, 11th, right? Something like that, which isn't very exciting.
Here's the thing about the upcoming schedule. The Titans beat the Texans in part because these division games are unpredictable and the personnel well and all of that. Well, that's also a recipe for the Jaguars to beat the Titans.
Oh, sure.
They
could lose both those games easily.
Nobody's talking about that.
Right.
And that's a recipe for Houston not to get swept by the Titans. That's a recipe for the Colts maybe to somehow sweep the Titans. So you look at the remaining division games and everybody's like, well, they could go on a hell of a roll. And I say, well, they beat the Texans, which is the kind of weird thing that happens in division games. You have to,
like the Texans winning here with Tyrod Taylor in 21 against a team that still got the 1 seed.
Yeah. And Jacksonville's looking at the Titans as their best chance to win another game this season, which is entirely possible.
Maybe the Jags will be more serious about tanking and, just play Mac Jones.
The Titans have lost to plenty of Mac Jones.
Well, that's true too.
That is true.
More losing is definitely on the table.
Johnny
we can all agree on
Manziel.
that.
Johnny Manziel, anyone?
Well, I mean, when
Brian Leaf.
they play the Bengals, I mean, they're going to have to get in the 30s in that game. It could be high octane, baby. Titans, Bengals.
Yeah, and you would think Zach Taylor's got a heavy advantage in that game, mentor over student, but student sometimes, surprises.
Remember Vrabel up in
versus
Foxborough?
Yeah.
Vrabel versus Billy.
Yeah.
PK, happy
Not
Thanksgiving.
hillbilly, just
Not
Billy.
hillbilly.
We
just
wish
Billy.
you the best with whatever food you decide to eat tomorrow. I hope it's really, really good for you.
Thank you so much. And love you guys. Appreciate everything here. Thankful for it. And
We're thankful for you.
I ask everyone out there, see how insincere that was? I ask everyone out there, don't block the box and be sure to lock your locks.
Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. We will not have a program tomorrow. We will,
Lazy.
however, be back on Friday from 8 to 11 as the Predators are taking on the Lightning later that day. So Preds got the game tonight against Philadelphia. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, by the way. Friday against Tampa Bay. Saturday on the road against the Minnesota Wild. 3 and 4 coming up for
Good
the
show.
Nashville Predators.
Good show. Excellent show.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Have a great day, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you on Friday. Chasing Big Joe up next. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.